Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into banking innovation, something that's probably on your mind if you're prepping for a meeting or just trying to get a grasp on fintech. Maybe you're like me and just curious about what's coming next for money. Well, we're going to be taking a deep dive into this super interesting article by UXDA, a financial UX design firm. It's called Banking Innovation Will Never Stop. And it's a really thought-provoking piece. We're going to uncover exactly why that is and what it actually means for you, not just as a customer, but also as a potential investor.
Yeah, you always hear about this digital transformation like it's a finish line or something. But the truth is, it's a moving target.
So it's not like checking things off a to-do list. Like, oh, I got the app, redesign the website, done.
Not even close. Actually, UXDA found that 70% of digital transformation initiatives completely fail.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons, banks treat them like one-time projects. They don't realize that it's got to be a constant evolution.
So instead of to-do list, it's more like you're subscribed to a service that just sends you a new one every single month.
I like that. I like that a lot because things are always changing, right? Technology is advancing, customer expectations are going up and up, and then you've got new security threats popping up all the time. Banks can't just hit a digital finish line and call it a day.
Okay, so this constant evolution thing, what are some of the biggest challenges banks are running into, if this is the reality? The article mentions 10, but what are some of the ones that really hit home for us, the customers?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is what they call strategic misalignment. Basically, banks get so focused on the shiny new technology, the trends, that they kind of forget what their customers actually need, what we want.
So it's like a bank pouring all its energy into a crypto trading feature on their app, when most of their customers just want a simple way to pay bills online.
Exactly. A perfect example is all those fancy UI revamps we've seen. They look all sleek and modern, but they don't actually make the app any easier to use. It's all style over substance. What matters is keeping up with customer expectations. And let's be honest, companies like Amazon and Apple, they've set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, they definitely have. We're all used to things being fast and easy and even personalized. It's hard to go back to clunky, slow experiences after you've had a taste of the good stuff.
Right. And this is where another big challenge comes in. Legacy systems. Imagine trying to build a super fast train on top of old rickety tracks. That's basically what a lot of banks are up against. They're trying to add all this new tech on top of outdated infrastructure.
So even if they do manage to upgrade one part of the system, something else just immediately becomes the weak link.
Exactly. And that brings us to the big point. Digital transformation as a one-time event is an illusion. It's a constant process, and it's driven by three things: technology, customer expectations, and then that ever-changing landscape of regulations and cybersecurity.
Okay, let's break those down one by one. First up, technology. It feels like every other week there's some new game-changing technology, cloud computing, blockchain, AI, the list goes on. How are banks supposed to keep up with all of that?
Well, each new advancement, each new innovation, it forces banks to adapt. They got to integrate it in a way that makes sense for their customers. And this cycle, it never really ends. Look at companies like Apple and Tesla. They're always coming out with updates. They anticipate what we need before we even know we need it. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And banks, they need to adopt that same mindset, perpetual innovation, always got to be moving.
So it's like the tech world is one giant treadmill and you can't stop running or you're going to fall off?
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to that second factor, customer expectations. What blows our minds today might be completely ordinary tomorrow. Banks can't just sit back and relax. They have to constantly innovate or they're going to become irrelevant.
It makes you think, how many times have you switched to a different app, a different service, because something better came along? In the digital world, you got to earn loyalty. It's not just about being the big name anymore.
That's a really good point. And when you connect that to the bigger picture, it's clear that complacency, just standing still, can be really dangerous.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this never-ending story plays out. But what about that third factor, the one you mentioned? Regulations and cybersecurity. How do those fit into this whole evolution thing?
Well, those are moving targets too. Regulations are always changing. They're trying to keep up with the new challenges and protect us as customers. And at the same time, you've got cyber criminals getting more and more sophisticated.
So it's like trying to hit a moving target while you're on a roller coaster, basically.
I like that. That's a very accurate analogy. And because of all that pressure, they have to adapt to the new regulations. They got to stay ahead of those security threats. Banks are constantly updating and refining their systems. It really never ends.
Okay, so we've talked about all these challenges, but is there any, I don't know, is there any way for banks to actually deal with this constant change? Does this UXDA article offer any solutions?
Yeah, they do. They really emphasize this strategic UX approach. Basically, banks need to start thinking more like tech companies, really focusing on the user experience.
I'm sensing a theme here. Banks becoming more like those tech giants we keep comparing them to. So how do they actually do that?
Well, it's about this idea of user-centered design, or UCD. Instead of just throwing tech at a problem, UCD is all about understanding what the customer needs, their pain points. And then you design solutions that aren't just functional, but they're intuitive, they're even emotionally engaging.
So it's not just making things look pretty, it's making sure they work beautifully too.
Exactly. And it's an approach that really works. Look at Apple. So much of their success comes from that relentless focus on user experience.
Okay, I get the idea. But do we have any, real-world examples of this UCD approach in banking?
Yeah, definitely. The article talks about ITTI Digital, a fintech company. They completely redesigned their core banking system using UCD, and they managed to cut down employee training time from months to just hours.
Wow, that's a huge difference. I bet that saves them a ton of money and makes things way more efficient.
Oh, absolutely. And for us as customers, that ease of use really shapes how we see the bank. The app basically becomes the bank itself.
So it's like the app is the storefront, the teller, the ATM, all in one. That's a lot of pressure to get the experience right.
It really is. And because of that, constant improvement, it's not optional anymore. It's essential if banks want to stay competitive. If your app is clunky, slow, confusing, people are going to go somewhere else to a bank that offers a better experience.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive, I gotta say.
Mhm.
What stands out to you the most from all this? Are you surprised that digital transformation is more of a journey than a destination?
What I find fascinating is how it really changes how we think about banking. We tend to see it as this stable industry, like it doesn't really change that much. But the reality is it's constantly in flux, it's evolving all the time.
It really does flip the script. So if banks had to keep innovating just to stay in the game, what kind of features, what kind of services would make someone switch banks today? What's your vision for the ideal banking experience?
That's a great question. And it's one that banks should be asking themselves constantly because in this world of fintech disruptors and, customers expecting the best, the only way for these traditional banks to survive is to adapt, evolve. But to get to the heart of what customers really want, let's turn the question over to you, the listener.
So what would make you switch banks? What features, what services, what does your dream bank look like? That's the million-dollar question, not just for you, but for banks too.
You got it, because in this world of fintech startups shaking things up and customers expecting the moon, traditional banks have got to adapt and evolve or they'll get left in the dust.
Adapt and evolve. That's the perfect motto for banking these days. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this crazy world of banking innovation, and I don't know about you, but it's been pretty mind-blowing.
Totally, and we hope you've gotten a lot out of it. Keep thinking about this stuff. What bugs you about your bank? What do you love? What would make you say, whoa, that's the bank of the future?
Because at the end of the day, the future of banking, it's in your hands, you the customer. So keep those expectations high, stay curious, and until next time, happy banking, everyone.